Shreyas, I am absolutely delighted to be in conversation with you today on Filme Shilmy. Thank you so much for joining me.
Pleasure, always a pleasure.
So, how has lockdown been for you?
Uh, Actually, it has been pretty interesting. Uh, Maybe something like this had to happen for us to understand and realize a few things. Uh, so I have been spending maximum time with my family, especially my little daughter. So she's just 2.5, and these last 8 months, uh, we keep saying, and your friends keep telling you that this is the best period of their life and yours when they are that young, and you can see them grow, every little thing, that every little change that keeps happening in them, whether it's crawling or then walking or then running and talking and speaking and saying sentences after that. So I'm glad I could experience all of that, because had I been working, then probably all this would have been practically impossible. So apart from that, uh, it also you know made me realize that there's a lot more that I can do. Uh, I have been doing theater for quite some time. In fact, since the time I started doing films like Iqbal and Golmaal, I haven't been able to do anything in theater. But during this lockdown, we realized one thing: when the theaters got shut, especially drama theaters, we realized that if people cannot go to theaters, why not theater go to people? And we
Mm.
started working on one OTT platform, and very soon we'll be launching the first ever OTT platform dedicated to theater and performing arts. So that is what I've been working on during the lockdown.
Oh, wow. So, is there any update on when you're going to be launching that?
We haven't really finalized the date yet, but pretty soon we'll be making a formal announcement.
Oh, wow. That's very exciting. I think it's important because I think the performing arts, especially theatre, has suffered quite a lot. Um,
Yeah,
in the pandemic, because obviously films had OTT platforms to sort of fall back to, but theaters didn't really have a backup plan, so to
yeah,
speak, in a way.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I think it's a really good idea. I'm really glad that you've launched that.
Thank you. Thank you.
So also, Shreyas, I think it's quite special because I believe Om Shanti Om also celebrated what 13 years
13 years. Yeah,
of its release, and
yeah,
I think everyone was quite nostalgic about the film as well because it was such an iconic movie. Even now, people love it and still tweet about it. I mean, what were some of
yeah.
your fond memories of working on the film? I'm sure you've probably been asked that quite a few times, but what was a memory that you could share with the Filmy Shilmy viewers that perhaps we've not heard?
No, a lot of them. All these films have been very, very special for me. Uh, right from Iqbal to Door to Bombay to Bangkok to Om Shanti Om to Golmaal to Welcome to Sajjanpur, Dil Dosti, etc. So Om Shanti Om, yes, very, very special film, and even the most minutest of details. For example, meeting Shah Rukh for the first time uh, at his bungalow, Mannat. And I remember he was rehearsing for KBC, the season that he had hosted. So he was rehearsing for that. And meeting him for the first time, I met him. And, the first thing that so he started talking about what the film is. Okay, and I said, uh, what should I call you? So he said, meaning? I said, you're such a senior, So should I call you Shahrukh sir, Shahrukh bhaiya, Shahrukh dada, Shahrukh ji? And in this very typical manner, he was ruffling his hair and he said, Shahrukh. So I said, what? He said, yeah, just call me Shahrukh, you know. So that's how it all began. And after that, I guess we pretty much broke the ice on day one. The way he is, he made me very, very comfortable. Obviously, Farah, again, the way she is, um, she makes sure that all her actors are pampered on set. So, of course, that is something that she did. But even Shahrukh, for that matter, made sure that all his actors, for that matter, were treated equal and felt extremely special and pampered on set. So, very fond memories of Om Shanti Om.
Absolutely. I mean, it's wonderful to sort of hear about that as well. I think I found it very fascinating because it kind of, I guess, broke the glass ceiling for you in terms of the commercial appeal that you had as an actor, in terms of like
Mm.
the main, like it kind of brought you more into the spotlight, so to speak, as well. But besides the commercial aspects, I mean, how different was your life prior to Om Shanti Om?
My life has always been like this. So uh, nothing much changed for me, per se, because there are certain things I was very, very clear about. Whatever happens, my certain things in my life are going to remain the way they are. So just because you've done one Om Shanti Om or you've done one Golmaal doesn't mean, and just because you've got into a bigger kind of limelight doesn't change certain basic things for you in your life. So
Hmm.
I am not really a party animal. You would never see me attending a lot of parties, not any kind of controversy. So my funda has been very clear. My grooming has been through theater, and the one thing that you're taught is your work will get you more work.
Hmm.
So we would just go out there, work, give it our best shot, and come back home. Simple. Period. So not much change. Yes, I mean in terms of your lifestyle, there are certain ambitions that you have. There are certain dreams that you want to fulfill. In your struggling days, for example, there were times when there were so many things that I wanted to give my then girlfriend, who became my wife. So yes, I mean with glamour and with commercial success also there's uh, certain money that you earn, and then you tend to fulfill all those dreams that you wanted to achieve at one point. But in terms of your basic lifestyle, nothing much changed for me.
Hmm. And I think it's also fascinating as well because you began with an inspirational underdog story, a character which I think would be a dream role for many, many actors. Iqbal was
Yeah.
quite an iconic film, and thinking about it at the time that it released, it was very ahead of its time. Um,
Yeah.
and I think sort of even then looking at your sort of trajectory afterwards in your filmography, you went on to work a lot more with Nagesh Kukunur as well. I think
Yeah.
God is one of my favorite films, I think, of all time. I think it's such a fabulous film as well. But at
Thank
that
you.
point in time, what was your vision as an actor, and how successful do you think you've been in achieving that vision?
So I at that point in time, I wanted to work with the best of directors, work on the best of scripts, do the best of roles, or do the role to the best of your ability.
Hmm.
So obviously, the kind of people that I worked with, I consider myself extremely fortunate. Right from as in all these directors and storytellers of different genres, different schools of acting and performance, and different thought processes, different perspectives. So I'll give you one example. When I'm saying this, right from Nagesh Kukunur to Rohit Shetty to Sham Babu, Sham Benegal sir, to Farah Khan, to Sangeet Sivan, to Saad Khan. I mean, completely different schools of thought, right? So I remember on the first day of Om Shanti Om, Farah Khan, I was rehearsing this part where I do the scene and when I tell Omi that tu hero banega, and I was doing it in a particular way. And Farah came and said that, you know what, thoda aur chahiye, thoda aur chahiye. So I didn't understand what she meant. She said, "Nahi," I rehearsed again and she said, thoda aur chahiye. So I said, थोड़ा थोड़ा और मतलब क्या क्या चाहिए तू मुझे एक बार बता दे. So she said, now this line is, she said, अपनी पिक्चर है ना, अपने पिक्चर का जो सुर है, सुर, ओके, वो नगेश कुकनूर के सुर से बहुत ऊपर है और करण जौहर के पिक्चर के सुर से थोड़ा नीचे है. So what she meant is that Nagesh makes more realistic kind of films. The way you talk in his films or where you deliver your dialogues in his films, the characters in his films and the characters in ours are completely different. They speak in a different manner. It's probably the same line that you deliver, but how you deliver it there and how you deliver it here is different. So I was very fortunate to work with all of them and then mold myself accordingly into that particular character. Not everybody, I guess. There are some actors that I spoke with and they would say, how do you do this? And I said, somewhere I guess my theater grooming has given me that confidence. And I love doing this. This is my job, right? You
Mm,
work with different directors, and then they tell you different things, and then you just mold yourself and you play that character the way they want you to play it.
mm,
So I consider myself extremely fortunate to have worked with all of them. So like Sham Babu would give you a lot of freedom when we did Welcome to Sajjanpur, and he would say, just improvise and do what you want to, and then I will see what needs to be edited on the edit table. So I found all these things very fascinating. I could do what I uh, wanted to. Similarly, Nagesh Kuknur is not the same in every film.
mm,
What the instructions that he gave me in Iqbal were completely different from the instructions that he gave me in Door. So again, the same director and two different personalities in a way, directing you into different films. So it has been a great journey, if you ask me. If you Yeah, commercial success, there has been some. There have been certain opportunities that I missed out on. Like I
oh,
said, I
really?
haven't. As
You,
in, yeah, as in, there are certain things I feel. I should have probably paid more attention to the marketing part of it and the PR part of it, which I didn't really do. So I missed out on certain things. Not that I didn't. Yes, there are certain things that I still want to do.
mm,
And with every new film, there's a new hope and there's a new challenge. So yes, there's still a long way to go, a lot more to achieve, is what I feel.
mm. I'm really glad you mentioned this whole PR aspect actually, because I feel nowadays, I feel PR marketing has sort of taken a lot more center stage and more prominence. You still have very amazing talents emerging, thankfully, because of the web and the fact that we are now exposed to more um different kinds of cinema and consuming different kinds of cinema. But I still feel that marketing and PR and all of those things have sort of taken center stage now. Do you think that could pose a bit of a threat to the creative side of acting and cinema?
Uh, not really. See, I mean, no one cannot keep real talent hidden for a really long time. Yes, there could be certain hiccups, uh, but if you're talented enough, then you will shine. You will shine through, is what I have always believed in. Uh, Having said that, I feel PR and marketing is equally important, but that is not the only thing. I mean, you can keep doing all the PR in the world you want, but if you do not really have it in you, you cannot go beyond a couple of films, right?
Hmm.
Um, I mean, there have been certain examples of doing excessive PR, and people feel, why are you doing all that PR when you do not have anything to talk about? I mean,
Hmm.
we want you to talk about your films and your performances, and this is, after a point, people are not dumb. People are smart. Okay, your
Yeah.
audience is smart. You cannot really take them for granted. So they will understand after a point that, okay, this is all bullshit exercise to just
Hmm.
probably market yourself. But what at the end, what really counts is your skill and your talent. If you really do not have it in you, then you just cannot go anywhere. And we've seen so many examples of that.
Yes. And I think also because you were talking about switching voices and different filmmaking styles and how you can have the same director, but yet the tone of the character will be significantly different. You've also been a director as well. So as
Yeah.
an actor, you know the sort of vision that you have as an actor, does that change significantly when you step into the shoes of a director as well?
Well, direction for me has been so fascinating, to be very honest. When I started directing Poster Boys on day one, I realized I've done a big mistake by committing to act in it as well. Because the kick that one person gets when he's directing that film, when he's the captain of the ship, when he's supposed to take charge of the entire thing,
Hmm.
I felt I shouldn't have agreed to act in the film that I was
Oh,
directing. Of course, this is a very personal thing that I felt, because
yeah.
I was getting so much of uh, happiness and excitement and the whole adrenaline rush while I was directing, that there were times when I said, do I really have to go change, do my makeup, and go and do that particular shot, because I'm feeling so happy behind the camera here,
Hmm.
doing all the direction part of it and telling actors, okay, nahi aise karna, waise karna, I want this kind of mood and say the line in this manner. So I realized that, okay, this was one thing that I did, but going forward, I would rather stick to one thing. If I'm acting, I'll act. If I'm directing, then I will only direct, because it's a different world out there when you're directing. I had a great time, and I would love to do that over and over again.
But I'm sure also the pressure must be double as well, right? Because you're the one calling the shots and you need to be in control when you're directing. So I guess the pressure must also increase significantly too.
It is. But I think if you're well prepared, if you've done your homework well, if you've done your pre-production well, then there's hardly any pressure, to be honest. There are some last minute things which mostly are production challenges. As a director, yes, I mean, there are certain challenges which you face with certain actors, because you feel that this actor will deliver in this amount of time and suddenly he doesn't. So what do you do? For example, we always schedule a particular scene, right? That, okay, from 7 o'clock to 10 o'clock, we are going to be starting the scene and we'll finish it in time, and then we'll move on to the next. Okay, so keep that location ready and everything. And there was this particular scene that we were doing,
Mm.
and there was this small little kiddo who was there in that particular scene, and she was what, 2.5, 3 maybe,
Oh.
and she was just not in the mood to shoot. I mean, she came on set and she started crying. She said, "No, I don't want to sit here. I want to be with my mom," and things like that. And suddenly it was a wake up call for me. It was like, hello, what's happening? Just stop that kid from crying. Get her to sit over there. I want my scene canned. And then my wife was on set. Of course, that time we didn't have Adya in our life. So my wife was there and she said, "Hey, hello, listen. This is a small kid. She's a 3-year-old. You can do nothing when she's crying. Okay, if she doesn't want to shoot, she doesn't want to shoot." And for me, it was like, oh God, what am I going to do now? I have my actors waiting there. We've got the entire scene uh, choreographed, and now we're ready to shoot. And so I had to wait. That is one little things that you keep learning every day. So then I went to her. I went to the kid. I played with her for some time. I gave her a few chocolates, and then she felt a little comfortable. And then I said, "Okay, are you okay to shoot now? What we're going to do is we're going to play a little game where you're going to be sitting on the bed, and this is going to be your dada, and your dada will come and he'll talk to you. Will you be okay?" And I said, "Once you speak to him, then dada will give you a chocolate." So she said, "Yeah, okay." Then finally so you realize that every actor is different. You have to
Mhm.
pamper your actors and make sure that they are very, very comfortable before they start facing the camera. We're just saying that each day is a new day.
Yeah, yeah, and when you were saying all of this, I kept remembering the scene where I think in Om Shanti Om, where you had Dolly's mother sort of pampering the daughter, and it's actually quite interesting how, in a way, that
Yeah.
film really kind of talked about the film industry in a very stark, in a very dark way, but yet it was very beautifully portrayed and quite comically done as well. And I think that's something which makes
Yeah.
Om Shanti Om so iconic. It kind of talks about issues that we're all aware of,
Yeah.
and that's always been under the sort of gossip
Yeah.
columns, but it brings it more to light through the glamour and glitz and stuff. And I think your experience as a director is quite representative of that as well, I think, in many ways.
Yeah, and but that is complete Farah. The way she is, the way her sense of humor is. She and Sajid, they have a very wicked sense of humor. Not everyone really understands that, but the way she portrayed the whole thing on celluloid was amazing. The kind of vision that these guys have of blockbuster movies, they always think 70 mm. So even in that particular scene when Farah was explaining to me that मुझे थोड़ा ज़्यादा चाहिए, her last sentence was मुझे 70 mm चाहिए. So that's how they see their film. That's how they want. They are. I mean, it's a dream world, right? You got to make it more colorful and nice for your audiences to eventually come there and watch.
Absolutely. So we were talking about acting earlier on, and you've been a prominent face in a lot of successful comedy franchises. For example, the Golmaal series, the Household 2 as well. And I think comedy is a very tough genre to master. It really is serious business. So what would you say is that correct balance an actor needs to have to make sure one stays within the parameters of the genre and not go overboard?
It's very simple, actually. It's not that difficult. You just need to be very, very honest to the part that you're playing, and very honest to the script and the sur of that particular film. So when we say this, even in Golmaal, all of us are, over the top while we are performing. But because all of us have the same sur, it doesn't really, people don't mind watching it like that, because all of us are on the same pitch. Hey, Gopal, क्या कर रहा है? इसको मारूंगा, ये करूंगा, ऐसे कैसे बोलेगा, तू क्या करेगा? So all of us are, on the same sur. And that's what makes it very endearing in a way, is what I feel. So what a basic thumb rule of comedy is, you need to be honest, and you need to do it with utmost sincerity and innocence. That is what I've learned. And the moment people start feeling that you're trying to make them laugh or trying to do some comedy, they'll immediately switch off and they'll say, "अरे यार, ये हंसाने की कोशिश कर रहा है, वो मत करो." आप जो कर रहे हो वो innocently करते रहो, honestly करते रहो, and लोग हंसेंगे. As simple as that.
I'm just very curious to know what's going to happen next in the Golmaal franchise, because I think they've explored it all. I mean, we've had obviously Rohit Shetty's flying cars, which is like, I think no film is complete without the flying cars at all. So I think we've had that. We've had ghosts flying around in the last Golmaal, actually. Perhaps the only film of his, like a comedy film of his, which there has not been any flying cars, and there's been only flying ghosts instead. So what do you think would be an interesting concept to sort of explore in the next Golmaal franchise? I mean, has there been an update?
No idea. No idea at all. But he certainly has a story in his mind. He had also made a formal announcement sometime in Jan this year that he would be coming up with the fifth installment of Golmaal. And we are all very eagerly waiting to hear what he has in his mind, because one thing that Rohit always does is, the moment he has a script completely ready is when he would call his actors for a narration, not before that. So there's Golmaal, whatever, we did 3 films of Golmaal, but every time we've heard a script, it has been completely ready. That's the final kind of script that we hear, nothing half cooked. So, but when it comes to Rohit, you can be rest assured that he will come up with a surprise, and especially with something like Golmaal, he's so particular about Golmaal and always pretty much on his toes when it comes to Golmaal, because people's expectations keep rising with every franchise, with every installment that we come out with of Golmaal. So we better make sure that it is equally entertaining.
You never were originally a part of the franchise. I think you came in Golmaal Returns. I think that was the first time you kind of entered the franchise.
Yes.
So how did that work out for you?
Yes. Well, I guess at that point in time, Sharman had some date issues, is what I was told. I had just done maybe 3 odd films at that point in time. And because they were ready to shoot, and they didn't have the 4th guy with them, so they were looking out for the 4th guy. And I am happy and glad that they approached me for it. When they approached me for it, I said, "Oh, are you introducing a new guy?" So they said, no. And when I heard the story, I realized, I said, then what happens to Sharman? So they said, okay, Sharman is not going to be a part of it. So that's where you step in, and you're the 4th guy now. So I said, all right, So I asked them, what happened? So he said, no, he has certain date issues and he doesn't want to be, he wants to basically give dates over there.
Okay.
So I said, all right, fair enough. Somebody's lost, my gain. So I grabbed the opportunity, and I'm glad I held on to it.
Wow. Obviously, it's been a very, very commercially viable project for you as well. And it kind of just adds to that
Yeah.
versatility for you as an actor? Because you've also sort of had gray shades as well in the past. You've done a few gray shade roles as well. But then having something like Golmaal as
Yeah.
well. How much of an asset is it to have or be a part of such a franchise? I mean, what has been the biggest sort of advantage of having that besides the whole like commercial part of it?
Well, I guess as an actor, it just keeps you fresh in your audience memory. I'll give you a small example. So, Golmaal 3 happened in 2010.
And
Okay. And Golmaal is a franchise which is loved by kids. So, kids love watching the Golmaal series. And you can start it from any point in time and end it wherever. It'll just keep entertaining you. Okay. Because there is something or the other, some comedy or the other that keeps happening in Golmaal. After that, the kid who was maybe mm, 3 at that point in time, or 4 at that point in time. Okay, after that I did Houseful also. So there's a certain section of kids which, of course, grew up, from 2010 to 2017 when we did Golmaal again. And there are certain kids who didn't know. I mean, of course, probably they didn't watch Golmaal because it didn't release at that point in time. So they had no clue about Golmaal. And certainly there's a new section of the audience which was ready, for Golmaal again, the last installment that we did. And then suddenly, out of the blue, there's certain kids coming in again, and Gulmal uncle, Lakshman uncle, Lakshman uncle. So it's fascinating because, of course, there were certain 5-year-olds who've now become, let's say, 10-year or 12-year-olds. So they've seen Golmaal, but the way they enjoyed Golmaal now was completely different from what they remember earlier. So yeah, so then what happens is they go back and watch the other Golmaals as well. So ये गोलमाल का fourth part है, अरे हमें third भी देखना है, second भी देखना है, कैसा है, क्या है. So of course there's a new big section of the audience that gets ready for you, and then they keep expecting a lot more Golmaal that they would want to see in future, and it just keeps you fresh for your audience, and that is the biggest thing that Golmaal does. Well, yeah, Golmaal suddenly has become a synonymous with Diwali. So people expect every Diwali there should be one Golmaal at least, so that they can go out with their families and watch it in theaters and have a great time and celebrate Diwali. So it's like how Friends used to be. That every season you want to have more of it. So Golmaal has become pretty much like that. That every Diwali you want to have something like a Golmaal, where you can genuinely go out with your family and enjoy. So personally, as actors, we also love doing that. We love getting together and creating those moments for families to enjoy. And Rohit gives us ample opportunities to do that. So in fact, this Golmaal again was when all of us got together again after 7 years. I mean, it's so strange that we are in the same industry, and for 7 years somehow none of us worked together in any of the films. Me not with Ajay Bhai, or not with Kunal, not with Tushar. They also didn't work together, and suddenly after 7 years again we got back together and we did Golmaal. So it was pretty strange, but the kind of teamwork that we had, the kind of tuning that we have, the kind of understanding that every actor has, that every actor understands as he's just a part of the whole thing, and he just has to deliver his part well. It's not about grabbing that limelight or extra footage that, okay, he's going to be dancing, why am I not dancing? So it's nothing like that. Golmaal is where you just want your audience to have that experience, where you just want them to celebrate with you, and each one just does his own part and he moves on. So I think it's a touchwood, but it's a fantastic unit and a fantastic feeling to be a part of it.
Yeah, definitely. I think we're all waiting for the next installment with bated breath, and looking forward to see how Rohit Shetty will kind of entertain us again with a new kind of sort of tarka added to the franchise. So I think that's something that we're all looking forward to. But so you began, Shreyas, with I believe, was it with Marathi theatre? Your acting career. That's how it all began, right?
Yeah. I've been doing theatre for quite some time.
So how satisfied are you with the way Marathi and non-Hindi content is booming? Like, for example, there's been some amazing Marathi movies to have emerged recently. And I think even non-Hindi films, I believe Jallikattu, which is a Malayalam film, is even being nominated for an Oscar as well, or is in the Oscar race, so to speak. So how satisfied are you to see non-Bollywood films sort of take center stage as well now?
No, I guess film industry in general has to blossom. It's as simple as that. It's not only about Hindi film industry or any particular language film industry. It is about making sure that there's so many languages in India, and why not have all those industries booming? Because of course South industries have their own loyal audience, but now if you look at it, Gujarati industry, Marathi industry, Punjabi, Bengali, Assamese, Konkani, there are
Mm,
so many people working on there in fact Bhojpuri, so many people working on different kinds of stories and languages and making the most of it. So people also right now, I think, are uh, more open to all these languages, and it doesn't matter what the language is, because most of the films today have subtitles. And we've realized that because of the language barrier, earlier we used to miss out on so many good films, but now because of your subtitles and everything, and even dubbing for that matter, you can watch that content, and it's great content, especially all this content coming up on OTT. You can just keep watching them over and over again, and some great performances. I mean, there are some phenomenal actors like Surya in the
mm,
Tamil industry. They're phenomenal actors. So it's always a treat to watch these guys perform on screen. So yes, I think the whole uh, gap is kind of becoming smaller and smaller, and it's becoming one thing. So I don't think it's in fact, if you talk about it, then we should talk about the fact that it's Indian film industry more than anything else, which has so many languages and some kick-ass directors, some hardcore producers who want to make sure that we create content that is world class. So
mm.
it's a great phase to be in the industry right now.
Hmm. So I also think, you sort of mentioned the OTT platform, and I know you're sort of working on bringing theater to screen, so to speak, in a way because of the pandemic. But if you had a chance to sort of work on the OTT platform, what style of content would you be interested in being a part of or being involved in?
See, it just needs to be entertaining and engaging. It could be any content. It could be a thriller, or it could be drama. It could be comedy. Of course, I am, happy doing comedy because it kind of just comes naturally
Hmm.
now. But having said that, as an actor, you feel you should explore more uh, uh, sides of what you can deliver as an actor. So uh, on OTT, I would like to keep experimenting more on OTT platforms. So
Hmm.
right now, in fact, I'm doing a series which is a comedy, but there's another film that I would be doing which is inspired from a true story, and
Oh,
it's a thriller. So uh, so yeah, honestly, there's so much that we can keep doing, and there are new OTT platforms coming in. There's our OTT platform coming in,
hmm.
so all those guys who are interested in theater can approach us and be a part of our platform. Simple.
Definitely. No, absolutely. I think it's such a great initiative, and you're only encouraging more talent because of that OTT platform. And I think it goes kudos to you and the entire
Yes.
team for kind of conceptualizing that idea. But I think going forward now,
Thank you.
Shreyas, I think what I always ask artists whenever they come on Filme Shilmy is that since lockdown has been a very thought-provoking and a very reflective period, of course, a very difficult period too, what has been the biggest change in you?
um like I mentioned, I figured that there's more to me than just being an actor, or a director or a producer. uh Obviously, I mean, watching your kid grow is a phenomenal feeling in itself. It just makes you a different person, I guess. More responsible, more sincere. Um, you tend to forget everything else at that point in time and just focus on your kids. So that pretty much has come at the right time, I'll say. But apart from that, I think, like I said, you realize that you're just a tiny part of the whole. You are nothing, when it comes to nature. uh, you just need to make sure that you don't abuse people or nature in any way. There are not too many things that you really really need. uh, you can survive with the bare minimum necessities that you have, and you cannot screw around with nature is one of the biggest lessons that we've learned here. If nature decides, it can screw your happiness for months together and you cannot do jack shit about it. So yeah, I mean, look at all of us. We're still scared. We're sitting homes, in our homes, and there's nothing much that we can do. We're trying our best to try and get out and do something, but one tiny microorganism which we cannot even see has managed to make sure that entire world is just sitting there, stand still, shut up and sit. Period.
No, absolutely. I think it's been a very eye-opening experience as well. And I think, of course, whilst I think it's taken a toll on a lot of us, but I think sometimes to find solace amidst the sort of
Yeah, I think
storm
I
is
think it's the way you look at it. I think it's more than anything else. It's your perspective that really counts. Positive became a very dangerous word in 2020. But at the
yeah.
end of the day, what else can you do? You just take a back seat. That's exactly what even I did. When the lockdown started, initially we felt that it might go on for, okay, 10, 12 days, 15 days, and then we'll again get back to our work and things like that. But then we started understanding the gravity of the whole thing. And then you started scrambling. Okay, what am I going to do next? What will happen? Falana, Dimkana, there are so many other things that you want to do. And then you realize that, hello, everybody's sitting. There's nothing you can do about it. So just chill, just take a back seat and sit and relax and just enjoy life for once. Just stop running like a madman. And why don't you just enjoy all those moments? So yeah, I think this has been a pretty huge revelation in a way. So
Absolutely. But Shreyas, I think on that note, I just wanted to say a huge thank you for joining me on Filme Shilmy. You're such a fab talent, and I think to sort of gain your journey and understand more about your journey has been such a privilege, I think, for a journalist like myself. So thank you so much for joining me on Filme Shilmy.
pleasure.
Thank you
Pleasure
so much.
talking to you, buddy. And I hope we get to talk again sometime. Bye bye.
Yes, definitely. Thank you,
Take
Shreyas.
care.
Bye bye.
Take care. Bye bye. Bye.